My friends, my fellow travelers on this path, Joel S. Goldsmith would often begin by looking out at a gathering like this, not as a crowd, but as a congregation of souls, and he would address you not by your name, but by your true nature as the pure consciousness seeking to know itself. So I come to you tonight in that same spirit. Let me speak softly, for the words I must share are not for the crowded room of the world, but for the quiet chamber of a single, prepared heart. You have felt the tremor, haven't you? A quickening, a strange pull in the center of your being, a whisper that woke you from the dream of an ordinary life. You thought it was anxiety, perhaps, a random worry, but it was not. It was the first distant echo of the alarm. You are here tonight because you are the chosen one, not chosen by some external God, not selected for glory or power as the world understands it. You are chosen by the urgent necessity of this very hour, chosen by the emergency that is not of this earth, but for this earth, a celestial event within the soul, a comet of truth crashing into the comfortable illusions you have called your life. You have built a home in the world of form, believing its walls would protect you. But now a light is penetrating those walls, and you see the foundations were never solid. They were built on sand. This is the emergency, the shattering of the false, and it is terrifying. But I did not come here to speak of terror. I came to ask you a single question, the only question that matters now. What will you do when you discover that the chosen one you have been waiting for has been you all along? If this resonance has touched something deep within you, a knowing you cannot yet fully articulate, then do not let this be just another moment that fades. The journey is just beginning. If you feel the call to go deeper, to understand the full weight and wonder of your role, then I invite you to like this video, to comment below with the number as a Helenollers and others, a symbol of new beginnings and alignment, and to subscribe. Your presence in this community is not a casual click. It is a signal. It is an answer. Oh, you have felt the tremor, haven't you? Not a tremor in the earth, but a tremor in the soul, a subtle, persistent vibration that runs beneath the surface of your everyday awareness. It is the first signal, the most gentle, yet most insistent of alarms. Most of the world is deaf to it, busy as they are with the noise of their own dramas, the clamor of their ambitions and fears. But you have felt it. You have paused in the middle of a crowded room and, for no reason you could articulate, felt a profound and startling sense of isolation, as if you were the only one aware that the play was ending and the lights were about to come on. This tremor is not anxiety, though the mind, in its ignorance, will rush to label it as such. Anxiety is a contraction of fear of loss, a spiraling into a future of lack and peril. No, this is something entirely different. This tremor is an expansion. It is the unsettling and yet somehow beautiful sensation of an old skin becoming too tight. It is the feeling of a consciousness that has outgrown its container. This quickening is the soul remembering its own name. It is the divine within you, the immanent Christ stirring from a long slumber. For ons, it has been content to dream, to experience life through the veil of the personal self, the ego. But now the dream is reaching its climax. The alarm is sounding not to punish, but to awaken. And this inner tremor is the first ripple of that awakening moving through the layers of your being. You may notice it as a sudden, inexplicable dissatisfaction with things that once brought you comfort. The career, the relationships, the possessions, they begin to feel like props on a stage, and you are growing weary of the performance. You may feel a deep, nameless longing for a home you cannot place, a nostalgia for a truth you have never or consciously known. This is the soul's homing instinct. It is the pull of the absolute. The world will try to medicate this tremor. It will offer you new distractions, new philosophies, new possessions, new relationships to quiet the shaking. It will tell you that you are unwell, that you need to relax, to focus, to get a grip on reality. But the reality it refers to is the very dream from which you are waking. To quiet this tremor is to hit the snooze button on your own awakening. The purpose of this subtle shaking is not to be soothed, but to be listened to. It is a guidance system. It is the faint, steady signal from your true source, and it is asking you to turn inward, to follow the frequency back to its origin. Every time you feel that tremor, that moment of stark, unsettling clarity in the midst of the mundane, it is an invitation. It is a whisper saying, look deeper. None of this is what you think it is. You are not who you think you are. It is the beginning of the end of the world as you have known it, and the first faint glimmer of the world as it truly is. And so we come to understand this tremor not as a malfunction, but as a summons. And this brings us to the heart of the great misperception, the cosmic misunderstanding of what it means to be the chosen one. The mind, conditioned by scripture and cinema, hears this phrase and immediately paints a picture of specialness, of a destiny adorned with external validation and worldly triumph. It imagines a singular figure set apart from the masses, destined for a glory that all will see and applaud. This is the ego's interpretation, and it is a profound and potentially devastating error. You are not chosen for glory as the world understands it. You are not chosen for power, for fame, or for a crown that can be seen by mortal eyes. To be chosen in this context is to be selected by the impersonal, urgent necessity of the divine calculus itself. It is a functional designation born from a critical mass of consciousness, a tipping point in the collective soul. Imagine, if you will, a great ship that has sailed for millennia on a sea of illusion. Now a storm is approaching, a storm of truth. The ship requires a crew, not of passengers, but of those who are awake enough, aware enough to man the stations. You are not chosen because you are better than the passengers sleeping in their cabins. You are chosen because the ship needs your hands at the wheel, your eyes on the horizon. The emergency is the storm. Your awakening is the requirement of the vessel. This is a selection devoid of personal privilege. It is imbued with profound responsibility. It is the call going out to those whose inner frequency has reached a pitch where they can no longer ignore the changing winds, the shift in the stars. You are chosen because you can no longer not be chosen. The trembling within you is the resonance of the ship's engine, the vibration of the entire structure as it prepares to navigate the unimaginable. This is why the feeling is so often accompanied not by a sense of pride, but by a deep and unsettling loneliness, a weight you cannot explain. You are feeling the burden of this necessity. The divine does not choose the qualified, it qualifies the chosen through the very urgency of the situation. The pressure you feel is the pressure of all of creation leaning into a new dimension, and your consciousness is one of the points through which this transition must occur. You are a portal, not a prince, a conduit, not a king. The glory you will know is not the applause of the world, but the silent, staggering awe of witnessing the absolute express itself through your own being. It is the glory of the sunbeam that does not boast of its light, but simply and necessarily illuminates because the sun has risen. You are chosen because the sun of truth is rising, and the world in its darkness requires every available ray of light. This is not about your personal story of salvation. It is about the emancipation of the whole and you have been identified as a cell within the body of humanity that has achieved a certain level of conductivity. The current is now flowing, and you are simply the point where the light is becoming visible. And this necessity, this urgent calling, manifests in your life as what can only be described as an emergency. But we must look with clear eyes at the nature of this crisis. It is not an emergency of circumstance, not a financial collapse or a geopolitical conflict, though those may be its faint echoes in the outer world. This is an internal emergency. It is the profound and terrifying crisis of the false. Your entire reality, the one you have meticulously constructed, believed in, and defended your entire life, is being revealed to you as a complex and beautiful, yet ultimately fragile illusion. The foundations of your identity are not just cracking, they are dissolving under the direct light of a consciousness that can no longer participate in the dream. This is the shattering. It is the comet of truth crashing into the carefully maintained facade of your personal self. Every belief you have held about who you are, what you need to be safe, what you need to achieve to be happy, is being called into radical question. The persona you present to the world, the story of your triumphs and traumas, your attachments, your aversions, all of it is being up for review, not by a critical mind, but by a silent, witnessing presence that finds no substance in any of it. This is not a gentle process. It is a spiritual emergency. It feels like a breakdown because it is the breakdown of the entire structure that you have mistaken for yourself. The feeling of groundlessness, the vertigo of meaninglessness, the anxiety that seems to have no specific object, these are not signs that you are failing on the path. They are the inevitable and necessary symptoms of the false identity losing its power, its cohesion. The walls of your perceived reality are not just being repainted, they are being demolished to reveal the infinite space that was always there. This shattering is, in truth, the most profound act of grace. The divine is not punishing you, it is liberating you. But liberation from a prison you have called home for a lifetime is a terrifying prospect. The ego, the architect of that prison, will fight this process with every tool at its disposal. It will manufacture dramas, illnesses, and profound doubts to recapture your attention, to convince you that the world of form is the only real world and that you are in grave danger. It will tell you that this awakening is a descent into madness, a loss of everything precious, and in a way, it is right. You are losing everything. You are losing the entire constellation of false perceptions that have defined your existence. You are being emptied out, because only a vessel that is empty can be filled with the new wine of spirit. This emergency, then, is the violent grace of being stripped bare. It is the uncreating of the created self, so that the uncreated self, the Christ within, the Buddha nature, the pure awareness, can stand revealed, not as a new and better object within your experience, but as the very subject of all experience, the immanent and silent witness that you truly are. And it is into this state of dissolution, this sacred emptiness, that the comet of truth arrives. This is not a gentle guiding light. It is a celestial impact. It is a force of absolute, uncompromised reality crashing into the comfortable illusions you have curated over a lifetime. These illusions are not mere mistakes. They are your psychological architecture, the very walls and floors of your perceived existence. The comfort they provide is the comfort of the known, the familiar. It is the comfort of the dream, however nightmarish it may sometimes be, because within the dream, you still have a role, a name, a story. The comet of truth does not seek to renovate this structure. It seeks to vaporize it with the sheer intensity of what is real. Consider the most cherished corners of your identity, the story of your victimhood, which has granted you a certain moral authority, the narrative of your achievements, which has given you a sense of worth, the belief in a personal, separate self navigating a world of other separate selves, which has provided the drama and meaning of your life. These are the comfortable illusions. They are the furniture in the house of the ego. And one by one, the light of this truth is exposing them as facades, as thought forms with no inherent substance. This is not an intellectual understanding. It is a visceral, shocking confrontation. It is the realization that the you have been protecting, improving, and lamenting is a phantom, a collection of memories and conditioned responses masquerading as a solid entity. The comet's impact is the end of the world because it is the end of your world. This is why the journey feels so violent, so much like an emergency. The ego experiences the arrival of truth as an apocalypse. It is the ultimate invader, the final threat to its sovereignty. But from the perspective of spirit, this is not destruction, it is revelation. It is the clearing away of a dense and obscuring cloud cover to reveal the sun that has been shining eternally. The comfort of the illusion was a prison of low-grade light, a dim existence where shadows were mistaken for substance. The comet of truth shatters the ceiling, and for the first time, you are exposed to the raw, unfiltered brilliance of pure being. There is no comfort here at first. There is only the staggering, fall, and terrifying luminosity of what you are without the story, without the name, without the mask. The comfort you sought was the comfort of the known. The truth offers you the boundless, infinite, and eternal reality of the knower itself. And in that impact, all that is false is not corrected, but simply and irrevocably erased. And this erasure of the false inevitably leads you to a single terrifying point of revelation. As the comet of truth does its work, as the comfortable illusions are burned away, your gaze is forced downward, away from the dissolving sky and toward the very ground upon which you have built your life. And you make a shocking discovery. The foundation you believed was solid rock, the bedrock of your identity, your values, your understanding of God and reality is not solid at all. It is sand, it is shifting, unstable, and insubstantial. You see that your entire life has been constructed upon a consensus reality, a collection of inherited ideas and unexamined assumptions you mistook for eternal truths. The belief in a separate, judging God, the conviction that security lies in external possessions, the notion that your body and your mind are the limits of your being, the deeply held fear that you are inherently lacking and that your life is a quest to acquire what you are missing. All of this, every single premise, is revealed to have no inherent reality. It is a story you were told, a story you agreed to, and a story you have been telling yourself ever since. This is the most profound terror of the entire journey. It is not the fear of a specific outcome, but the vertigo of absolute groundlessness. To have the foundation of yourself pulled out from under you is to experience a psychological free fall. Every instinct screams to grab onto something, anything, a new spiritual belief, a teacher, a dogma, a practice to stop the falling. This is the ego's last, desperate attempt to rebuild a familiar structure, even if it is a prison, but the fall does not stop because there is no bottom to hit. There is only the continuous, breathtaking fall through the layers of the false and the terrifying, dawning realization there may be no solid ground at all, that the security you have sought your entire life was itself the primary illusion. This is the dark night of the soul, not as a poetic metaphor, but as a visceral psychological event. It is the unavoidable crisis that occurs when the form identity confronts the formless. You are being invited to surrender the very concept of a foundation. You are being asked to trust not in something you can stand upon, but in the falling itself, to discover that what you are is not a building needing a foundation, but the infinite space in which all appearances, including the appearance of a separate self and its world, arise and pass away. The terror is the death rattle of the ego, which cannot conceive of an existence without a point of reference, a name, a story, a location. But the revelation is that you are not the building that is collapsing. You are the awareness witnessing the collapse. And this awareness does not require a foundation, for it is itself the substance of all that is, the one and only reality upon which every temporary and illusory foundation has ever been mistakenly built. And so we arrive at the precipice of this revelation, not with an answer, but with the only question that can now hold any meaning. The tremor has been felt, the summons has been understood, the false has been shattered, the illusions have been vaporized, and the ground has fallen away. All the constructs you use for navigation are gone, the map is blank, and in this vast, silent, and terrifying emptiness, a single question emerges from the depths. It is not a question asked by the mind, for the mind is part of the collapse structure. It is a question that emanates from the very core of the awareness that remains. What will you do now? Not in the external world of jobs and relationships, though that will be its reflection, but in the inner kingdom of your own being. The seeking is over. The seeking was the engine of the old self, and that self is gone. The spiritual practices, the desperate prayers for intervention, the search for the right teacher or the perfect teaching, these were all movements within the dream. You have awoken from the dream of seeking. So what will you do when there is no longer anywhere to go and no one left to go there? This is the moment of pure, unadulterated choice, not a choice between options presented to a self, but the fundamental choice of being itself. Will you contract back into fear and frantically attempt to rebuild a new, more spiritualized identity from the ashes? Will you grasp at the comfort of a new belief, a new label, the awakened one, the enlightened one, to fill the terrifying silence? Or will you have the courage to do nothing, to simply be the empty space that you are, to allow this groundless, foundationless awareness to be all that there is, without any attempt to modify it, to claim it, or to escape it? This is the final surrender. It is the surrender of the surrenderer. It is the willingness to be this infinite potential without any manifestation, without any story, without any name. The entire cosmic journey has been leading to this single silent point. The emergency, the shattering, the comet, it was all to bring you here to this question that is not really a question, but an invitation to a state of being beyond all questions and answers. The chosen one is not chosen to perform a great deed in the world, but to make this ultimate internal gesture of relinquishment, to cease the final subtle effort of being a someone who is aware, and to simply, utterly be the awareness itself. The world will continue to appear, but it will no longer be a problem to be solved, a path to be walked, or a reality to be understood. It will be what it always was, a perfect, spontaneous expression of the boundless consciousness that you are. The journey ends not with an arrival, but with the dissolution of the traveler. And in that dissolution, everything is accomplished and nothing is done.